Hello, and welcome to Secrets of the Short Game. Since over half of all shots played take place inside 50 yards, it is the most important part of the game. And although full swing instruction has improved dramatically over the years, short game instruction has not. In Secrets of the Short Game, I'll show you not just how to get by, but how to have a world-class short game. Now let's get started. Let's just talk about general principles of putting so that we have an understanding. Do we want the putter to go straight back, straight through? Do we want there to be an arc? Well, honestly, there are a million different ways to putt, and there's no one way better than the other. If my putter is on a straight back, straight through arc, and I release the putter head correctly, the ball goes right at the camera. Now, if we have a putter on an arc, and I release it perfectly, well, of course, the ball goes right to the target. But if I release it a little early, it goes off to the side, and a little late, it goes off to the side. So in theory, we would want the putter to go straight back and straight through. However, it would be very manipulative for us to do that. And so we have to be practical. The putter is going to take a bit of an arc. Setting up for putting is very important to be consistent. Also, where your eyes are positioned is probably the most important part of the setup. Have you ever seen a sharpshooter with his head over the rifle like this? No. You see him looking right down the barrel. You want your eyes behind the ball so you can look right down the line of the putt. My eyes are behind, looking right down the line, allowing me to see where I want the putter to go and extending it to the target. As we move the ball back in our stance, we de-loft the putter. As we move the ball forward, we add loft to the putter. So we want to find that one point where the loft on our putter matches and gives us the perfect roll. What is the optimum roll? An optimum roll is when the ball starts out with the equator going almost level to the ground and slowly turning over. And that's what 4 degrees of loft at impact will do. If we have less than 4 degrees of loft, it drives the ball into the ground and the ball will be bouncing. If we hit it with more than 4 degrees of loft, the ball comes up in the air with backspin and then hit the ground bouncing before it starts to roll. There are a million different strokes, a million ways to make putts. But there's one must in all strokes to be a good putter. That is, your hands have to continue to the target. All good putters have their hands continue down into the target line. You want your arm and putter to travel at the same speed and to continue down the target line. So I do this 3-foot drill where I make 100 3-footers in a row. I do it 3 or 4 times a week while I'm competing especially. Now to make these 3-footers, we want to go back 25% through 75%. That's the basis for the technique. But as I'm doing this drill, I'm letting the number get in my head and I'm creating a rhythm with it. 1. I try to keep the steps the same. 2. 25, 75. 3. 4. 5. After 5, I take the balls out of the hole because the hole starts to fill up. I try not to step in the line because that can make a big difference too. Your goal may not be to make 100 in a row, but it might be 10, to get 10 in a row. It might be 50 depending on your skill level. But this is the foundation of our short game. Getting back in the rhythm. 6. Moving over, stepping the same way. 7. I also see how the breaks are starting to go from a hook break to a slice break. 8. 9. And 10. I just wanted to show you how to set up the 3-foot drill. I take a 7-iron. I'm trying to extend my 3-foot circle out. You can take a sand wedge, start with probably a sand wedge would be the best club so that you're exactly at 36 inches. But I lay the club down and I just pop a tee in the end. I reach over, lay it down, pop a tee in, reach over and pop a tee in. So when you get done putting all 10 tees down, then go around and put the golf balls just on the side of the tee. I've moved back now to a 6-foot drill. I will do the 3-foot drill, that's my foundation, but I will spend a lot of time on 6-foot drill because at 6 feet is where the break of the putt is so much more noticeable. You have to read these putts perfectly and hit perfect speed to make them, and yet these are also the putts that we have to make to win golf tournaments. These are the putts that we have to make to shoot low scores. So I will do this circle. Now, if my goal on the 3-foot circle is 100 in a row, my goal is to get around this circle one time, and it is not easy. But I'm still thinking 25-75, the same technique as the 3-foot drill. Again, that's my foundation. I try to start at a straight putt because as I do that and go around the circle, I'm able to see the difference in a hook putt, in a slice putt, and it helps me read the greens out on the course. Already I missed one. It's not the easiest to pick up the read. In fact, this you can really see how much it breaks. So I'm playing that 6 inches outside the edge on these 6-foot putts. I'm watching, trying to learn the read because I know when I get out on the course, that's going to be critical. There we go. The numbers aren't going to lie. We're down to about 55-60% from 6 feet, and that's about what I'm making. In fact, it'd be nice if I could even do a little better. So I'm following the read. I'm not getting discouraged because I know that I'm going to spend a little more time on this and improve it before I go play. And then lastly, for 70%, perfect. That's right on the numbers. 70%, right where I should be. Now, I can line up perfect. I can aim perfectly. I can start it on the correct line. And if I hit it too easy, I'm going to miss it low. But it's not because I misread it. It's not because I misaligned. And it's not because I made a bad stroke. I didn't get the right speed. That's an important area to identify. And also, I can have the perfect alignment, the perfect stroke to get the ball through. And if I hit it too hard, I'm going to miss it high. Now, both of those were read perfectly. Both of those putts started exactly on the perfect line, but neither one went in. It wasn't because of the stroke. It wasn't because of the alignment. It was because of speed. We have to identify what it is that's causing us to miss putts before we can solve it. And that's what this is all about. Training our eyes to line up properly, training ourselves to read the green properly, and training our touch to feel the proper speed. For the 6-foot drill, I take a sand wedge and I just roll it over. So I pop it in the hole and I just roll it over and put a tee down. I do it 10 times around. Well, when we get back to 40, 50, 60 feet, the numbers of making putts, the percentages are so minuscule that is not our goal. Our goal is to get these putts inside 3 feet, which we know will make the next one. Now, I'm not trying to make this. I'm trying to just get it to creep into that 3-foot circle, and it got just past those tees. I put those tees there as a visual reference for me to know if the ball got into the circle. In putting, I've mentioned how there are many, many different ways to putt effectively, many different strokes that can get the ball in the hole. In chipping, that's not the case. In chipping, there is only one effective way to chip. Now, the one correct way of doing it is a method I call hinge and hold, but every great chipper does it. They refer to it their own way. They break their wrist immediately going back, causing a much steeper angle of attack into the ball when they go through. They break their wrist going back. Now the club is way up here, and my arm has barely moved. From there, I hold it or accelerate going through. Let me demonstrate. I break going back and I hold it going through. And one more time, we're going to break our wrist and accelerate into the finish. Now, all 3 of those balls stayed inside the 3-foot circle. Sometimes we need to get the ball stopped a little quicker, and there are 3 things we can do to bring the ball in softer into the green. The first is pretty obvious. We just open up the face. And when we open up the face, we're adding loft. So I set up square and I open the face. And I open it a decent amount, not just a fraction. I lay it open. Now, there are two things that are going to happen. If I don't make two adjustments, the ball will shoot to the side. One of them is I have to adjust my body until the face is aimed to the target. But the second is I then have to re-grip it. If I set up square and just turn my hands till the face is open, my hands are going to go right back to the original position. So we have to open the face. I have to adjust my body until the face is aimed to the target and then re-grip it. So you've learned the basic chip shot, the hinge and hold method, and we've done it to a close pin, but it also applies to many other distances from 50 yards in. As we move the pin back and make it a 20-yard shot, I want you to see that it's exactly the same. I set up the same, square to the hole, club face is square, I break the wrist going back, and I accelerate into the finish. You can see the club and the arm still form a straight line. Now, if I want the ball to come in softer, it's the same thing we talked about. I can just open up the face using the same technique. So I set up square, I open up the face a little bit, I then readjust my body till the face is aimed at the target, and I re-grip the club. Same motion. Hinge and hold. And as I accelerate into the finish, you can see the club and the arm form a straight line. Now, as I get to 40, 50-yard shots, it'll come up here and it might break slightly. That's not important. What's important is through impact, the club and arm are traveling at the same speed. The leading edge and the bounce are remaining constant for a long period of time. The flop shot is a fun shot to hit. I'm driving the club into the ground and the bounce is causing it to pop up into the ball. That's how I'm getting it to go high. So I have to hit it heavy and I have to have some bounce on the club. So I'm going to open up so that the club face is flat. I want the top of the toe almost touching the ground. I want it vertical. I don't want there to be any loft on the club. Again, because when it hits the ground, it's going to pop back up into the ball. That's how I'm getting it up, not the loft, so I won't go underneath it. I open up the face, my weight is forward, and I'm going to drive the club down into the ground right behind the ball. The most critical element of the lob shot is assessing the lie. Once we assess the lie, we determine where our weight is going to be positioned. If it's a tight lie, our weight is forward. If it's a fluffy lie, our weight is back. But it's the same technique, the same energy, and it's important to realize how far behind the ball we're entering the ground. But if we have the right lie, we can actually hit a low spinning flop shot. All you do is change where you strike impact. You move it closer to the ball. So my weight is forward, the face is laid flat. I've opened up my stance so that I can swing down my body line and have the ball go to the target. And I come in steep, and I'm able to use spin to get the ball stopped. So I'm going to hit a 30-yard shot where I break my wrist and accelerate through, and you're going to see how a 50-yard shot isn't much different from that one. All I do, similar to our lag putting, where in lag putting we took away one of the two variables. We have the backswing length, but the follow-through and the forward swing is at a constant, which is as hard as we feel comfortable swinging. We do that same energy level, that same effort level every time. We just vary the backswing. Same thing when we start elongating our chipping. We get back to 50 yards, all we're doing is going back slightly farther, and we're still accelerating into the ball. So then from that 30-yard shot, This 50-yard shot is going to look very similar, only a little longer backswing. We're able to make consistent contact and have these 30 and 50-yard shots feel like chip shots, because our goal is to get each one of these inside our 3-foot circle. Bunker play. The average bunker play on tour, it took place from 10 yards. So I practice exclusively from 10 yards, trying to get every shot inside that 3-foot circle. That's our goal. Get it inside the 3-foot circle where we know we can make the next putt. We're keeping our ball position the same, off of the front foot. We're trying to get the ball high and soft, so what do? We open the face and then adjust our body. Just like when we open our face from off the green using the hinge and hole method, exactly the same. On a good lie, our weight and position will be fairly level, maybe slightly forward, and the ball will pop right on out, as long as we keep our hands moving into the finish. When we get to the fine-tuned shots around the bunker, uphill lies, fluffy sand, downhill lies, it's the same concept as what you've learned in the lob shot. When we have an uphill lie, or if the sand is fluffy, we know in the lob shot, if we put our weight forward and drive the club behind it, we go right underneath it. So what we have to do when we get lies like that that are fluffy or uphill, we have to set our weight back. We have to shallow out the bottom of the arc. This allows the ball to pop up nicely. We're not doing anything different in our setup. The ball position is the same. We're setting it up the same on uphill lies, the same on basic shots. When we get to a downhill lie, it is the same as a lob shot. If we keep our weight leveled out, what's going to happen? We're going to blade it. So we have to get our weight forward to be able to drive the club underneath the ball. This is where we move the ball fractionally forward in our stance, opening the face just like the lob shot, and we drive the club right behind the ball, popping it up high and soft. In the sand, we often get buried lies, and this is a very difficult shot to control. But there are things we can do to improve our chances and to control the ball somewhat. We're obviously not going to spin the ball out of this lie. Our hope is to get it up and control somewhat where it rolls out. It's going to have 0 spin. This ball is plugged on an uphill lie. Now what I'm going to do here is I cannot finish high because the club will not get fully underneath the ball. All I can do is drive it just behind the ball and have the club stick into the ground. So I have to keep leading with my hands. I cannot let the club pass again. But what I want to do is I want to stick it into the ground as such. So the arm and the club stay in a straight line, and I'm just driving it right behind the ball. I'm opening the face. My weight is forward because we're trying to keep the club underneath the ball. The ball will get out. We just have to drive the club underneath. What we don't want to do is blade it, have our weight back where the leading edge comes up. We have to keep the leading edge down. So my weight is forward, I'm leaning into the hill, I drive it in, and if you notice the ball popped up, but look, my arm and club are still in a straight line. My hands continued, but it just stuck into the ground. It stayed ahead of the club. I didn't stop my hands and let the club pass. You cannot get out of a buried lie doing that. Here's another buried lie. Same thing, uphill lie. I'm going to drive my weight forward into the ground, into the hill, and same thing, driving my hands forward, leading ahead of the club head so that the club and the leading edge will never pass my arm. And the ball pops out, almost goes in. Now here we have a downhill lie. Obviously this ball is not going to get up as high and as soft. It's going to release a little bit more. I'm going to go to a further pin just to let the ball run out. If I had a tight pin, there's not much you can do. You just have to try to get it out. But it's the same principles as the lob shot combined with this buried lie. We have our weight forward, and we are not going to finish real high. We're going to stick it into the ground with my hand staying ahead of the club. You cannot get any of this. You'll blade it. The leading edge will never get under this ball that's way down in the sand. So the weight is really forward, ball is forward, and I'm driving it straight down into the ground. I'm actually not hitting it that hard. I'm not going to take this full swing because the ball's going to come out with no spin, so I have to play for that. So I'm just going to take a little shorter backswing actually on this downhill lie and let the ball pop up. And then it runs out. If I have a longer shot, a lot of times I see instructions saying you have to hit closer to the ball and take less sand. That's crazy. You don't want to do that. The margin for error is minimal, and the chances are you're going to blade it over the green. We're going to use the same exact bunker shot, using a little less loft, taking a little more club. So, I'll drop down to a sand wedge. Everything is the same. The ball position is the same. The swing with the hinge and hold accelerating into the finish will be the same. And the ball goes farther. Now I'll drop all the way down to a pitching wedge, sometimes even a 9-iron, to hit shots, hit explosion shots out of the sand upwards of 40, 50 yards. Same everything. Ball position is the same. I always keep the club face slightly open so we have a little bit of bounce. So our goal is to get it inside the 3-foot circle, obviously, but if not there, each foot is critical. And we try to get it inside that 3-foot circle. Maybe in. Oh, no. Almost. But we know we're going to make the putt.